We all have our heroes in English football. Cristiano Ronaldo, Thierry Henry, Didier Drogba, and hundreds of other footballers. However, some people in English football seem to split opinions and were even hated at some point, despite being the best at what they did. Suarez is a player who could have easily been remembered for his insane talent on the pitch alone. However, he was also known for the controversy he created. Let's start with the biting. Suarez chomped down on opponents not once, not twice, but 3 times. The most famous bite happened at the 2014 World Cup when he took a nibble out of Italy's Giorgio Chiellini. Seeing a full-grown adult snacking on a fellow player during one of the most significant sporting events in the world didn't sit well with many fans. But that's not all. Suarez also got himself banned for racially abusing Patrice Evra during a match in 2011. Oh, and who could forget the 2010 World Cup when Suarez played the villain with that infamous handball against Ghana. In the dying moments of extra time, he blocked a goal-bound strike with his hands and got sent off. But then he celebrated when Ghana missed the penalty. It was a move that had half the world furious and the other half admitting it worked. From biting to spitting, we've got some naughty boys on our list. Diouf crossed the line multiple times throughout his career. His on-field antics, particularly his tendency to spit at opponents and even fans, made him one of the most hated players in the sport. One of the most infamous incidents happened in 2003 when Diouf, then playing for Liverpool, spat directly at a Celtic fan during a UEFA Cup match. The ball had gone out of play near the touchline, and as Diouf went to pick it up, he was booed by the home crowd. Instead of ignoring the taunts, Diouf reacted by spitting at one of the fans, a move that sparked outrage and led to his arrest by Scottish police. He was later fined 2 weeks' wages by Liverpool and banned for 2 matches by UEFA. The incident earned him a reputation as a player without respect for the game or its supporters. The next name on this list will probably ask us, why always me? From lighting up the scoreboard to lighting up his bathroom with fireworks, Balotelli is the definition of unpredictable. One of the most notorious moments in Balotelli's career has to be his fiery relationship with managers like Roberto Mancini and Jose Mourinho. Things got so heated between Mancini and Balotelli that the two nearly came to blows during a training session in 2013. Mancini was reportedly furious after Balotelli made a reckless tackle on a teammate, and what followed was a shoving match that made headlines. Then there's Jose Mourinho, who managed Balotelli at Inter Milan. Mourinho once said that managing Balotelli was the hardest thing he'd ever done. Once, Mourinho sent Balotelli onto the pitch during a Champions League match with a simple instruction: don't get a red card. Of course, Balotelli managed to get himself sent off within minutes. Come on, man, you had just one job. Who do we have next? Joey Barton's rap sheet is longer than most footballers. During a heated match in 2006, Barton decided the best way to respond to some taunting from the Everton crowd was to drop his shorts and expose his backside to the Everton supporters. Classy, right? That little stunt earned him a hefty fine from the FA, but it also solidified his reputation as one of the most controversial figures in the game. But if you think that's bad, wait until you hear about his assault on a teammate. In 2007, while playing for Manchester City, Barton got into a training ground bust-up with Dabo. Barton straight up assaulted the guy. Dabo was left with injuries so severe that he needed hospital treatment, and Barton ended up with a suspended prison sentence and a hefty ban from football. At that point, it became clear that Barton's temper was more dangerous than anyone had imagined. He's the kind of player people love to hate, and honestly, he seems to relish that role. But no one's gonna question the next name we bring up because everyone hates him. Adam Johnson's fall from grace is one of football's darkest tales. Johnson's career came to a crashing halt when he was convicted of sexual activity with a minor. His actions led to widespread condemnation from fans, clubs, and players. The betrayal felt by supporters who had once idolized him turned into intense hatred. Johnson's crimes have tarnished his legacy, and he remains an outcast in the football community. Let's take a trip down memory lane and check out some of the other bad boys. Peter Beardsley was a talented footballer back in the day, but his post-playing career went off the rails in the worst way possible. When Beardsley switched from scoring goals to coaching, things got ugly. He found himself at the center of some major drama, with young players accusing him of racist remarks and straight-up bullying. Those claims sparked an investigation that ended with Beardsley getting kicked out of his job. Seeing legends of the sport breaking bad is a real bummer, and it just goes to show how quickly things can change. Who do we have next? Dennis Wise knew how to stir the pot on and off the field. One of the most infamous moments was biting an opponent during a match. And if that wasn't enough, he also got himself convicted for assaulting a taxi driver. That's not the kind of off-pitch behavior you want from your favorite player. All in all, Wise managed to become one of football's most disliked figures, proving that sometimes the drama doesn't stop when the final whistle blows. Bowyer was another figure who was always up for a scrap. Remember that infamous brawl with his own teammate, Kieran Dyer? Mid-game in a Premier League match, they just went at it. It's one of those moments in football history that's so wild, you almost can't believe it happened. But Bowyer's drama didn't stop when the final whistle blew. Off the pitch, he racked up a list of legal issues that only worsened his bad boy image. The most notorious was his involvement in a high-profile court case for assault, which just added fuel to the fire of public opinion against him. For Vinnie Jones, he was the epitome of a football hardman. And let's just say his reputation as one of the most feared players out there is definitely well earned. Vinnie wasn't about finesse, he was all about those bone-crunching tackles and a no-nonsense approach that left opponents quaking in their boots. His most infamous moment, grabbing Paul Gascoigne by the balls during a match. Yeah, that happened, and it's gone down in football history for all the wrong reasons. It's one of those moments that's become iconic, but not exactly in a way that makes you want to put it in your highlight reel. But Vinnie didn't leave his tough guy act on the pitch. Nope, he took that same vibe and ran with it right into Hollywood, where he started playing the same kind of hard-nosed characters in movies. Some might admire his fearless, take-no-prisoners attitude, but for many, he's seen as the poster boy for football's darker, more brutal side. Love him or hate him, Vinnie Jones is one of those figures who's left a lasting mark on the sport. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing depends on who you ask. Now we'll wrap up by switching focus from the players. Mike Ashley might not have ever laced up his boots, but when it comes to football, especially at Newcastle United, this guy's definitely earned a spot on the list of most hated figures. As the owner of Newcastle, Ashley quickly became the villain in the eyes of the fans. His reign was basically a masterclass in taking off an entire fan base. From making some seriously questionable managerial choices to skimping on the squad's budget, Ashley made it clear that profit was his main game plan. Football success? Not so much. But what really sent fans over the edge? He renamed the iconic St. James's Park to advertise his own company. This move was like a slap in the face to the club's rich history, and the backlash was intense. Newcastle supporters didn't just sit quietly. They organized protests and clearly wanted Ashley out. And even though he eventually sold the club, the resentment still lingers. To this day, Ashley's name is practically a curse word among Newcastle fans, and he's often brought up as Exhibit A of how an owner can wreck a club's vibe. The last name on our list is a huge surprise though. Sir Alex Ferguson. When you hear that name, you think of one of the most legendary managers in football history. However, Fergie didn't just win trophies, his fiery personality sometimes stirred up controversy along the way. Fergie was the master of mind games. Ferguson was willing to do anything to get the edge, whether it was clashing with rival managers, going toe-to-toe with referees, or even taking on his own players. And then there's the whole Fergie time thing. Those extra minutes of added time that always seem to work in Manchester United's favor. Rival fans cried foul, accusing him of getting too cozy with the officials. But Ferguson wasn't just tough on the opposition, he was ruthless with his team too. If you weren't up to his standards, you were out, no matter how big your name was. Some high-profile players saw their careers at United end abruptly, and that cold-blooded approach didn't sit well with everyone. So while Manchester United fans worship Fergie for all the silverware he brought home, some supporters of other clubs might not as much. But what are your opinions and hot takes about these people?